Yesterday, Xbox held its second annual Developer Direct where several games were shown and scheduled for release this year. Many of them have been long awaited by the gaming community. We also got an update on Starfield, which I will discuss in a bit. For now, let's talk about the Direct. The show started off with Obsidian's Avowed, and it looks great. This is probably one of the most anticipated games in the show, and more than likely will be one of the top games this year. We were treated with the main premise behind the game, which is that we are adventuring through the living lands of Eora, and we are tasked with trying to stop a plague and discover a secret. We are told this RPG will have choice and consequence, but the highlight of this part of the showcase was focused on the combat.
Here at Obsidian, our team's overarching goal is to empower you with choice. So we developed a flexible combat system that allows you to quickly swap from spellcasting and sharpshooting to melee combat. We want to give you the freedom to mix and match your loadout to fit the way you want to play from moment to moment, uninterrupted. For all battles, you can combine a variety of weapons, attacks, and abilities for tactical advantages against a wide range of enemy types. It's not just hacking and slashing. You're making real-time decisions about when to use your abilities, powerful melee attacks, blocks, parries, and special attacks. If you choose to approach combat with a one-handed wand, it feels quick and snappy when dealing damage to enemies at mid-range. Using the Tanglefoot ability, you can stop enemies in their tracks, giving you the opportunity to focus on weaker or tougher combatants in an intentional and controlled manner. It's important to pay attention to the types of enemies you're dealing with. Some units are extremely defensive, some are brutishly difficult, and others you must make sure you prioritize or their healing capabilities will put you in a tough spot. To help with the different encounters you will face, we provide customizable loadouts that can be quickly switched during combat. That means you can play however you want. Equip a sword and shield and charge into battle. Dual-wield pistols and control the encounter mid-range. Or even dual-wield wands to feel like a gunslinging mage. You could use your enchanted wand to freeze enemies, and then use your offhand weapon's power attack to shatter them. We've worked hard to keep you constantly engaged as battles unfold by creating a balance between pressure and manageability during combat.
As we just saw, there is quite a bit of choice in how we decide to play this game, and how the combat system seems to be versatile enough to give us that freedom. So no matter what your preference is in combat style, Avowed is set to deliver. Then, in typical Obsidian fashion, we were shown some of the quest and story as well as how the dialogue system will work. This section highlighted the choice and consequence that we were told we would get from this game. However, it did fall short of showing us said choice and consequence. This leads me to wonder if we're being told what we want to hear rather than what we need to hear. Personally, I will withhold judgment until we get more information from a full gameplay reveal. Hopefully, my skepticism will be elated. The showcase then moved into talking about the art style and how Obsidian wanted to shape the world of Avowed.
From the outset, we knew that we wanted Avowed setting to feel rich, weird, and wonderful. We found inspiration in a wide swath of real-world cultures, helping us create a unique RPG experience. By contrasting the vibrant with the dull, or verdant spaces with sickly ones, we can better deliver complex emotional experiences for our players. The Living Lands is a continent of untamed valleys with widely varied biomes, from luxuriant forests to volcanic wastes. And each of those regions itself is a conflux of storied landscapes. All of the regions have a lot of special things associated with them, but I have a deep place in my heart for Shatterscarp. As you're wandering the wastes of Shatterscarp, you might notice off in the distance a vibrant jewel of color. By transitioning from destitute, muted tones of a wasteland of sand and marching in towards a beautiful oasis, there's the opportunity there for life, for adventure, and even a little danger.
The world design does look great. Avowed will certainly be a delight to explore, but I felt disappointed by what we were shown. Avowed has consistently left people wanting to see more, and this time was no different, but I feel like the purpose behind this showcase is to give the developer a chance to really show players some exciting things. Avowed has a lot of potential, and it just isn't coming across that way in these short reveals. I hope that my skepticism will be put to rest this summer when we get the big Xbox showcase. For now, I will keep my excitement to a minimum. We did, however, get a time frame for the release. Avowed is set to release this fall. The showcase then moved toward Ninja Theory, where we learn more about Hellblade 2. We learned that this game is picking up where the first one left off and continuing the story. Hellblade 2 will have a shorter narrative-driven story, which is something that I welcome and wish would become more common in the industry. It's nice to have vast open worlds to explore, but it's also nice to have a well-written story, and sometimes that means the two can't coexist. Personally, I prefer the well-written story. At this point, we are given the premise behind the story.
You see how strong you are. Do you see how the pitiless world stamps you down?
Senua is back with a new quest. She wants to stop the Vikings who raided her village right at their source, in Iceland. But not just her quest has changed. Senua herself has grown since the first Hellblade. She's made peace with her past and is no longer in such fear of her visions and voices. While the Furies are still her constant companions, she encounters new people along the way, some of which will value her unique perspective, and others who will reject it.
Little by little, this settlement became my tribe.
In the game, Senua arrives in 10th century Iceland on the trail of the Vikings who have been enslaving her people. In the story, we're trying to be as faithful to history as we can up to a point, establishing a solid framework and then building more surreal elements on top. Senua will face up to giants who have plunged the land into chaos, and which in turn has seen the rise of the Droiga, a violent threat that has swept through the settlements that she'll discover. Senua will make new enemies and also new allies who will come to see her unique perspective as a beacon of hope. And she'll discover, along with us, how this viewpoint can have its advantages.
From a story standpoint, Hellblade 2 is poised to be a very compelling game. I love the fact that they are also trying to keep things as historically accurate as possible with regards to the time and the cultures. For me, this is important because my family comes from Ireland and Scandinavia, which means I have Norse blood in me. I have always loved both of these cultures, and I can't wait to see more of what they do with that in the game. The next part of realism that they bring to the game is psychology, as the main character, Senua, suffers from psychosis and hears voices.
A sign. Focus.
Senua is a Celtic warrior who experiences psychosis, seeing things that other people don't, hearing voices, and having unique beliefs about the world around her. To bring Senua's perspective of the world to life in a truthful way, we have once again worked closely with Professor Paul Fletcher at the University of Cambridge, as well as people with lived experience of psychosis.
What does that mean? What does that mean? It's terrifying.
Players will find themselves traversing beautiful and hostile environments, seeking answers from patterns and signs that Senua sees in her own unique way, and battling through encounters with enemies that will push Senua to her limits.
The sound design is incredible and really gives you that look into her mind, making you feel what she feels. They also include motion capture to make the gameplay even more immersive.
On Saga, we've taken everything to the next level. With a new motion capture space, a bigger stage team, a stunt crew and a new cast.
We spent a lot of time planning the motion capture shoots, thinking of what events would be good to bring into this fight. Like, how can we make this fight feel different from the previous fight? We have all new combat for the sequel. One of our key goals was the ability to actually tell a story throughout it. It does feel very different from the first game, but it's very brutal and you're very invested in it. Senua isn't a superhero. She's fighting for survival, and we want the player to feel her struggle in every step of her journey. We want the player to always feel like they just scraped through, just survived it.
Mel knows Senua better than anyone, better than I do. Her instincts are amazing, and she really doesn't need much help from me. On stage, our main focus is storytelling. So I get to watch the actors and see all the beautiful expressions on their faces. And then I have to wait a little while, and then I get to see that all again, in-game, in costume, on location, everything. It's a great experience, a great process.
Every discipline in the studio is unified in achieving a deep level of immersion to help suspend your disbelief and pull you into Senua's story. We were lucky enough to do a few reference gathering trips in Iceland. You have to be there. The sense of scale, everything is incredible. And you see a scene or you see a small section of the game and you're like, yeah, that works, that's amazing.
This is the level of detail that I was hoping we would get from the Avowed reveal. Ninja Theory is really delivering with Hellblade 2, and I think this game is currently underrated. It certainly has the potential to be one of the best games that release this year. Coincidentally, Hellblade 2 is the only game in the Direct that has a hard release date. This game will release on May 21st, and I think everyone should be looking to get this game. At this point in the showcase, there was indeed a fifth developer, and who better to come in than Square Enix. Xbox has really been pushing to get more of the JRPG genre onto its platform, and getting Square Enix is a huge win. They showed off their new game, Visions of Mana. Now, this really isn't my cup of tea, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it is something to keep your eye on because this genre has a huge following. One of the highlights for this game is the sound design, where they boast about the game having over 100 unique song tracks. This game is set to release this summer, so it could play a big role in the summer showcase. Now we move on to Oxide Studios, where they give us an inside look into the development of Ara: History Untold. Ara is a mashup of all the things that real-time strategy games have given us over the years. This game is like Civilization, Age of Empires, and all the various sim games. There are several things that make Ara stand out from the rest. This game is a living world where you can see all the changes in real time. The world is procedurally generated, and it gives the player the ability to reshape it based on in-game decisions. Winning the game is also different from all of the other real-time strategy games out there.
To win a game of Ara, players will compete with their rivals to build the most influential, impressive, and important nation the world has ever known. This is measured by prestige, the player's score that proves their worth as a leader.
The prestige system gives players the chance to decide what kind of leader they want to be. Do they want to pursue great works of arts and culture? Military might? Scientific advancement? The choice is theirs. In Ara, there are no set victory conditions. Players get to decide what is most important to them and focus and prioritize on those goals while still being able to win the game.
Personally, when I play Ara, I like to build triumphs. Triumphs are our collection of incredible monuments and architectural achievements from throughout human history. Like the Great Pyramid of Giza. They're hard to build, but worth it, giving huge prestige bonuses and game-changing abilities to the nation that constructs them.
Another aspect of Ara that I'm personally excited about is our crafting system.
The crafting system offers a unique challenge to the player that they generally won't see often in the 4X genre. Succeeding at balancing, gathering the right things, turning them into the tools that you need, and then finally getting to the outcome or reward of something like an important improvement or triumph just changes the challenge that exists in Ara compared to other 4X games.
Crafting plays out in Aura at a national scale, with players honing and combining the natural resources they harvest into all manner of goods and components. Those are the foundation for everything, from international trade to improving their cities' and citizens' lives, and even manufacturing the weapons necessary to draft military units. The crafting system in Aura encourages thoughtful, advanced planning. It rewards players who can see the strategic outcome of all their collective decisions, and not just the individual ones.
I'm proud of the work that's gone into our simultaneous turn system. Many strategy games have players alternate taking turns and reacting to their opponent's moves. In Aura, all players' actions are resolved at the same time. This rewards players' ability to navigate uncertainty, to predict and strategically plan for a variety of scenarios in the moment. This system makes Aura just feel more real. In a typical strategy game, once your turn is finished, you have to wait for a long time. With simultaneous turns, generally speaking, those times are very low. You get to keep playing the game and stay engaged rather than having those periods of downtime where you're not doing anything.
It's not easy sifting through all of history and picking what to include. For Aura, we wanted to offer a fresh perspective, so we looked at cultures and societies throughout the millennia with the broadest lens possible.
Where this approach really shines is in our leaders. Leaders are so often seen as military personnel or prominent government figures, but leaders come in so many different forms. They're thought leaders, scientific and cultural prodigies, and many more.
Each leader in Aura has a number of special abilities determined by their personality traits, as well as a powerful and unique leader trait informed by their contributions to world history.
With a diverse global roster, we know players will find leaders that they will want to play, and even a few that may surprise them with how fun it is when those leaders are handed the reins of power.
I absolutely love real-time strategy games and have been a long-time player of Civilization, stretching back to the very first Civ game. Aura looks to be even more amazing than that storied franchise, and I absolutely will be diving into this game. The level of detail Aura provides is above and beyond what I expected, and with everything taking place in real time, it will be interesting to see how it unfolds after launch. I know Civ tried to do this, and it worked to a degree, but the longer the game goes on in Civ, the better chance the game would crash. I hope that Aura has solved this problem. At any rate, we won't get to play this game until this fall, so we have some time to prepare for it. We then got into what I think is the highlight of the show. Machine Games presented us with the first real look at Indiana Jones, and boy did they deliver. The showcase started off with a brief description of the game, followed by a message from none other than Todd Howard.
I've wanted to make an Indiana Jones game forever. I'd had this idea for what it would be like and the story, what Indy was going after, what period of his life it was in, what kind of arc he was going to have. And as the years went on, I thought, who would be like the best studio in the world to make this? And it was my friends at Machine Games. I can remember pitching Lucasfilm on the game and being, a little bit nervous because, look, it's, Indiana Jones, and their response was just overwhelmingly positive, and just that excitement has bled through the whole project, and they have just been so trusting and supportive of everything that we want to do with the game. It's been a long time. I've been a fan of this my whole life, and I couldn't be more excited to show you what the team here has been up to. Let's take our first look at the new Indiana Jones game.
Let me tell you what you are missing, Dr. Jones. While you were playing your pointless game, I was playing you. You're wondering if maybe you should have built yourself a life of meaning instead of ending up here, dead and forgotten in the sense of Africa.
Myths, history, just different ways to interpret the past. Thousands of years of humanity's thoughts and beliefs, scattered and buried. just waiting to be found.
You can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me. Throughout history, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle. I've had run-ins with these guys before. Trust me, it ain't a walk in the park.
Okay, then. Let's see if you can keep up.
What do you mean if I can keep up? Patron of the fallen angels. Protector of the Chukulimani. The Great Circle. You have any idea how old that was?
Wow! What a great trailer. It really showed off many of the things that we can do and will experience in the game. If anyone was wondering why Starfield lacked the involvement of Todd Howard, I think it was because he was focused more on this passion project that he conceived and pitched to both Lucasfilm and Machine Games. Hell, he even created the basis for the story and what part of the timeline that it takes place. This was clearly where his focus has been, and for a man who is as busy as he is, I think he spent a lot of time with Machine Games to help drive the focus and design of this game. Now, the choice of making the game a first-person perspective has been met with mixed feelings, but I have to say, it is by far the best choice. How better to feel like you are actually Indiana Jones than to play the role in first person? More than that, Machine Games has always done a great job with this perspective. The thing is, you still get the third-person view from time to time in cutscenes and in certain traversal options. It really is movie-like how it is presented. So what part of the timeline is this game set in? Well, it is set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. This means that it is going to take place sometime near the Temple of Doom. I love this because it brings us back to the original films, and those were by far the best. Then they gave us a look into the story.
When our game begins, Indiana is working at Marshall College. He wakes up in the middle of the night to the sounds of a break-in and rushes to confront the thief in the college museum. The mysterious giant of a man makes off with what seems to be a historically insignificant artifact, sparking Indiana's curiosity.
Who the hell are you?
Following the trail, Indiana heads to the Vatican, hoping to learn why this particular relic was stolen, and discovers that things aren't what they appear.
He starts pulling at the strings of a mystery, and it all unravels until he has no choice but to see it through to the end, whatever the end may be.
On next plane to Rome. Stop. Need help. Stop. Libyan Vatican. Stop. Indy.
We always talk about how clever Indiana Jones is. That had to be one of our guiding principles when we were thinking about the type of game we were making. It wouldn't be Indy if he wasn't using his wits to get through the situation. The most authentic Indiana Jones experience we can make is the one that makes you think first.
Sure, there will be some obstacles that will be more easily overcome with the revolver or a gun taken from a disarmed guard. But I think most of the time you'll have more fun, and to be honest, a more genuine indie experience by finding more clever ways to solve a problem.
We always want to be offering more solutions, whether it's trying a different path through the environment to get around enemies, observing enemy patrols and using them to your advantage, or using the tools at your disposal, like the whip.
It's an amazing global adventure, with action propelling you through your journey.
We have these really diverse environments for you to explore. Indy's journey will take him to the forgotten temples of Sukhothai, the pyramids of Egypt, the snow-peaked Himalayas, and beyond.
We look carefully at each location and the time period the game is set in, and we're trying to make it as authentic and accurate as possible.
We love creating rich, vibrant worlds, and in this game, we also had the goal of making it feel like a true cinematic Indiana Jones adventure.
One of the biggest ways to do that is with the music. John Williams is the original composer for the Indy films, and we're really lucky to have found Gordy Hub, a composer who's been able to capture Williams' essence with his score for The Great Circle.
We also take a very movie-like approach to things like cinematics. We're very physical with our production style. We use a lot of stunt actors. Things like this help us bridge the gap between making a game and making a movie.
And of course, our characters do a lot to help bring the world to life as well. Next to Indy, Gina is our other main protagonist. Where Indy is pursuing answers just for the sake of curiosity, Gina has a personal stake in getting to the bottom of the core mystery.
Gina is an investigative reporter who has a lot riding on this adventure. She's been tracking a lead for some time, and now she's found an ally in this determined American professor. Their paths are intertwined, and they'll need each other in order to get to the bottom of this mystery.
Okay then, let's see if we can keep up.
Fight. What do you mean if I can keep up?
We always love our villains and think we might have found our favorite one yet in Emmerich Voss. He's this intensely psychological man. He's obsessed with the human mind and manipulating it.
He's highly intelligent and the perfect foil for Indy. They're both brilliant people, compelled by their passions and obsessions, but driven down wildly different roads.
He creeps up on you and gets under your skin like he gets under Indy's skin. It's captivating.
Dead and forgotten in the sense of Africa.
The story looks to be very compelling, and I'm actually excited to see how it all plays out. I love that they included motion capture for the game to make fight sequences more realistic, and the inclusion of a composer who was able to capture the original sound that John Williams had created. The characters also seem to have deep, rich backstories. They even made sure to follow the same model as the original films created, where they have the hero, Indiana Jones, the love interest in the female lead, and the main villain, who we all love to hate. Based on the trailer, it looks like they also paid attention to detail by including many of the original characters at the university. I wonder how many of the original characters we will run into, because there are more that just happen to be in all three films. They then talked about the combat and gameplay.
One of our mottos for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is adventure first. But in every Indy adventure, there are always those moments where he finds himself in the action.
That's been one of those balancing acts for us, and we've ended up with this sort of hybrid experience that mixes melee combat, stealth, and gunplay.
How you approach any given situation is up to you. You may choose to sneak around an enemy patrol, or maybe you'll just pick up a shovel and whack them on the back of their head. And when you can't use your wits, you got Indy's most iconic tool. Just like you see in the movies, one of our goals has been to make the whip as fun and multi-purposed as possible. We want it integrated into every aspect of the game.
You can use it as a traversal tool to make your way around the environment. You can use it as a distraction. And yes, you can absolutely use it in combat. Everything you'd expect from Indy's whip, and hopefully a little bit more. Puzzles are a key feature in our game. The spirit of discovery is so important to Indiana Jones. Obviously, there are a handful of puzzles on the main path, but a lot of the puzzles are optional and are just there for the players who want to experience them. Epic traps, small secrets, and hidden puzzles that blend right in with their surroundings.
One thing I love about our game is the level of interactivity that we have. We have this world of mystery where anything could potentially hide a secret. The more you look, the more you'll discover.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Machine Games seems to have captured the soul of what Indiana Jones is and placed it into this game. While I am excited for this one, I will still remain calm and wait for more actual gameplay because that is where the true test comes into play. Cinematics and trailers are all well and good to create hype, but we all saw how that played out for Fallout 76 and Starfield. And while this game is being produced by Machine Games and not Bethesda, it still has the potential for a Bethesda-like showing. Nonetheless, I am looking forward to seeing more of this game, and I am sure we will get a big showing at the Summer Showcase. There is not a hard time frame for release other than sometime this year, so I would expect it to release either midsummer or late fall of this year. With that, the showcase came to an end, and now we move on to Starfield. Earlier in the same day, Bethesda released its biggest game update yet into the Steam beta, which they claimed included over 100 fixes and adjustments, most of which were quality of life improvements. Now, after looking through the list, which is quite long, I did not see many things that would qualify as quality of life improvements, so the wording is misleading right out of the gates. I am not going to go through all of the changes, but if you're interested, then there is a link in the description below. Nearly everything listed is a bug fix, and that has led to a lot of chatter online about how serious Bethesda is about not only supporting this game into the future, but fixing the issues that it has. By now, most of you already know how I feel about this game, and if you don't, then I encourage you to watch my review of Starfield. In this list of fixes, there are several instances where fixes have been repeated in previous updates to the game, meaning they said the issue was fixed, but it never really was. Now, to be fair, at the time of recording this, I have not been able to confirm whether or not any of these fixes are actually fixed, nor do I plan on making a video detailing that out. What I will say is that I worry that Starfield is now reaching into the realm of Fallout 76 level of support. What I mean by this is that Fallout 76 gets regular updates to the game, but those updates rarely include anything other than bug fixes. So far, every update to Starfield has been bug fixes. Many of them were just small updates. Bethesda boasted about this being the biggest update yet, and while that is true, it is also misleading. It is still a small update when comparing to other games that had updates done in a similar fashion, like Cyberpunk. Starfield has been out for several months now, and still has many of the same problems plaguing it that it did at launch. I am happy to give them the benefit of the doubt by saying that they are working on it, but if it is going down the same path as 76, then it will be years before Starfield is fixed. To make matters worse, many in the modding community have already cut ties with Starfield, stating that they have no interest in modding the game. That means that Bethesda has a real problem on their hands because they can no longer rely on modders to fix their game for them. If Bethesda really plans to support this game well into the future, then they will have to rethink the company structure and how they create games. They can do this, but they need to focus and change how the studio is managed in order to properly move things forward and get back to being the great developer that they once were. Now I want to hear from you. What were your thoughts on the showcase? Did any of the games shown pique your interest? And if so, what game or games was it? Sound off in the comments below. While you're at it, like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I'm just glad you stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one.